What's going on, everyone? Samoa, unfortunately, they couldn't get it done today, but I rooted for them the entire tournament. When they made the finals against Tonga, I tipped them. When they played England, no one gave them a shot, and I tipped them. And sadly, this morning at 3 a.m, I was a sad man. And unfortunately, Samoa couldn't get the job done, but the boys gave the best account of themselves, and that's all you could really ask for them. Daniel, mate, I know how you tipped this game, but how did you see it playing out? Was Samoa as brave as I thought they were? Or did you see something else different?
No, look, Samoa turned up. They had an excellent tournament, but Australia is just unequivocally the best team in International Rugby League. Even looking at the game, that Latrell Mitchell versus Stephen Crichton matchup that we picked to be one of the big ones, opened the scoring. Crichton made an awesome tackle on Liam Martin, shut down a play, and they immediately went out to Latrell, who had a one-on-one, and 5 metres out, you're not going to stop him from there. I think it has been a good tournament, though, for International Rugby League in general. Like, we've got more teams sort of pushing up and contending, and you got your Samoas of the world, you've got Tonga, who's always strengthening, even like a Papua New Guinea, who we really root for as well. England, New Zealand, Australia. Lebanon took it to New Zealand a couple of those games as well. It's just becoming a better landscape for rugby league in general, and I think the first thing I'm going to talk about is not so much about the game last night, but I think they need to change the rules in terms of eligibility. So allow guys to play Origin and play international footy, and don't ask any questions. Just completely separate those things.
Yeah, look, it's definitely a topic that a lot of people are interested in, especially at high levels of rugby league. And it all comes back to State of Origin. I think State of Origin is just a big money-making machine for the NRL, and they want the best players playing. And I think if you have these eligibility rules that we currently have in place, they're going to stop that from happening. But it's tough when it gets to players that come from New Zealand, because they've never played Origin or never had any kind of semblance in the Origin arena. And I think changing the eligibility rules, and I think Samoa now are going to find themselves in that spot where they're probably going to move up to a Tier 1 nation, at least very soon, and same with Tonga. It's about giving, and because we have such a high degree of Pacific Islanders in our game, it's going to give those guys an opportunity to play at the highest levels of rugby league. And, the gold standard is State of Origin, and changing those eligibility rules are going to be extremely important.
But we've seen in this tournament, Josh Papali'i, Junior Paulo, Stephen Crichton, Brian Toa, a lot of these guys have gone from State of Origin to international sort of representation outside of Australia. And it's just been great for the tournament. So, I think we just need to lean into that more. I know Mal Meninga's not that happy about losing players from Australia, and the forward pack was a little bit light, a little bit smaller than it usually is because of that. But it's going to have to be a sacrifice Australia makes. In this game, what were your thoughts on where it was won and where it was lost for Samoa?
100% came down to the defence. Australia they were cleaning up the loose trash, and I think Samoa actually had a fair few opportunities to cross the line, and there are a few times where they got across the line. I think Chanel Harris-Tavita crossed and got stopped. And then, it was just a matter of Australia played the game that you expect them to play. They defended really strong. They were the best defensive team all tournament, and it showed in this game. Samoa came out and played exactly probably how they wanted to play. They threw the ball around, and they got Australia on the back foot at times, broke a few tackles, and that was going to be extremely important to them even getting close in this game. But Australia were just too good. Cover tackles, tackling across the line, holding players up. It was a defensive masterclass, I thought, from Australia, and they basically did it for a solid 60 minutes. And then Samoa, crossed the line with that Brian To'o try in the 60th minute when you thought the game could come back, but really, it was Australia's defence that won them this. And what they say, defence wins championships. The old saying comes back to haunt us again. Yeah,
and by that point, it was 20-0 to Australia. So, 60th minute, you score a try to get back in it. That pass from Luai was exceptional. Like, he just threaded that between the hands of a hopeful interceptor.
Mate, Daddy knows how to throw them. He gets across.
Yeah, well, he lost this one to Cleary, but you can't blame Luai. He had a great performance in that one. One guy I want to draw attention to is Josh Adokar. the tournament he's had and that try that he set up, just the electric speed, like he's not breaking tackles with physicality. He's just so fast. And he set up Tedesco for that second try, and I thought that was a real foot on the throat try for Australia. They were getting on top there, and to go 10-0 up, it's very hard to catch them from there.
Yeah, one thing that we spoke about in the semi-final with Australia is that their offense looked really disjointed and it wasn't clicking quite well, but you saw a big change in this game, and yeah, there were inside balls for inside balls, and Tedesco burst through for one as well. He went all the way, and every time Addo-Carr gets the ball, I'm just scared. Like, as an opposition, like, team or player, imagine marking Josh Addo-Carr. I think I can't give him any room because he's going to beat me on the outside, or he can actually run through you. He's pretty strong in terms of, leg speed and just driving, through tackles. It's unbelievable to watch at times, and credit to him. I almost thought I had him as the player of the tournament.
Not far off. Definitely the best try scorer in the tournament.
Yeah, well, yeah. I think his inside man would have a little something to say about that, though, in this game. He was absolutely electric, Latrell Mitchell.
Yeah, and we did talk about that in the preview as well. They needed to go back to Latrell in this game if they were going to score enough points to shut down Samoa. And Australia did that early. They signalled intentions with that first try to Latrell. He was involved in setting up the other try as well, where he popped it out to Addo-Carr, and Addo-Carr kicked infield for Crichton. I just want to go back to Chanel Harris-Tavita, though. The third choice number 9 on this roster, knocked out cold by Crichton, and pretty dodgy play from Crichton. Would you expect him to be suspended for that one?
Look, it was pretty dirty. Kind of loose ball play, though. You don't really expect that kind of thing to happen, but it was just the weird forearm that came up and knocked out Chanel Harris-Tavita, who actually had a very good game. He nearly kicked a 40-20 to put Samoa on the front foot. Great work from Tedesco to get across and stop that, but yeah, Crichton, I'm expecting him to get a few weeks for that, and it could be very damaging to the start of the Roosters season. I've actually got them pretty highly rated going into 2023.
I mean, they play the Dolphins round 1, so if a couple more suspensions could come through, and we got a Dolphins win in their first game.
Dolphins, mate. Yeah.
We'll do a Dolphins preview later.
Coach legend, Wayne Bennett. Yeah.
Yes, Wayne Bennett's great, but when has he rebuilt a team? When's he taken a team from cellar dwellers and brought them back? Like, you look at him at Newcastle, not the best experience. He was excellent at St. George, but that was a great roster.
Look, I'll tell you one thing. He leaves teams in the cellar, doesn't he? When he leaves them. They don't go too well after he goes back. But with the exception, I'd say, of the Rabbitohs this year.
Yeah, but a lot of that is Latrell's evolution. So for this game then, I'm just going to point out a couple of the tries that were scored, because you talked about the inside ball for Teddy. That was a nice play. So the switch play to Cleary, out to Munster, inside ball to Teddy. That's the kind of attacking footy we were hoping to see. Same as like that face ball to Cam Murray, and Milford sort of shot out. I don't know who he was going for at that point, but Murray just went straight through. So they looked like a team that had played together for the first time in that tournament, which to me is pretty incredible. But yeah, because when they were writing up scores, that 84-0 score against Scotland, it didn't feel like a game where they'd earned an 84-0 win. It was a bit more, guys sort of running over guys and less fluency in attack, right?
Yeah, it was just pure talent that kind of got them those wins. You just look at the class across the field, and they had it in spades against those lower-ranked teams like Scotland, as you were talking about, Fiji even. I think Australia kind of hit their straps at the right time to get your attack really moving and fluid in a grand final is kind of hard to do, but all teams take time to gel together, and I think Australia, with having so much turmoil as to who's going to be the halfback across the entire tournament, really played a part in that. But I think, the grand final really showed. I love that outside-inside ball. The Smith-Cronk-Slater play. It's an age-old play that seems to keep working, and I don't know why more teams don't try it more often. Mal has copped a lot of criticism in the last couple of weeks, but he got the team over the line, and he's even copped criticism from me as well, and I've been a bit critical of Mal in the past, but good job, mate. That's all you can really get from me. Good job, mate, for doing what you were supposed to do.
Tournament champs for Australia. Look, I'm going to cover off one last thing here with you. I want to talk about Samoa's next tournament. So you look at this team and look at some of the ages of the players in this team in particular. A lot of young guys, a lot of guys sort of coming up, particularly Joe Sawali, who had an incredible tournament at fullback and his sort of first real top-line experience at fullback in this tournament. How do you feel about Samoa in the 2025 World Cup? So it's about 3 years away because of the delay. Do you think that they come back and Final Four is the pass mark for them, or is it still a case of let's get out of our pool and do what we can?
No, I think the expectation's been set, right? You know, you've got to hold yourself to the standard of we made the final last time, we can make the final again, and take that next step and win it. That's what every kind of club or international team has got to do for the next World Cup anyway. If you're looking at where you made it out of, let's make it to the next level. And for Samoa, the next level is winning the grand final. I think the next World Cup is going to be so interesting from a competitive standpoint, because this year, despite what a lot of people are saying and running up scores and it's really boring, you know what? I think Samoa making the grand final stamps all that out, and just shows that there is effort being put into these tier 2 nations, and they can go all the way, and they're not going to be blown away in the final as well. Like Samoa were in that game, like for long periods of the final. And the Toa try got him even closer. But looking ahead to 2025, it's going to be extremely important for these clubs these international teams to keep growing, especially Tonga, PNG. We saw PNG. We love PNG. I'm such a fan of PNG after this World Cup and their fans. Thank you so much. Them to keep improving and keep showing the kind of fight that it requires to win on a normal basis is going to be particularly important heading into the next World Cup.
Yeah, that's an interesting point you're raising there. So what lessons can the other tier 2 nations take from Samoa's rise? Part of it is that Samoa just had a really talented core of players, a lot of them coming from a very successful Penrith system. Some of the others just top-line representative players, even outside of Penrith. You look at that front row, it's just exceptional. So what can the other clubs, or what can the other tier 2 nations take from them? I think it was an ability to reset. So that 60-6 loss, Samoa had no reverence for anyone in this World Cup. They rocked up to every game, and like people say they're cocky or disrespectful or whatever. That's how they have to play. You got to play like, you got to throw it at the other team, and if you lose, you lose. If you drop the ball and you lose 50-0, that's better than having no chance and losing 20-5. Like 5 is a weird score. But yeah, they really threw it at them. And I think when we look at the grand final where Parramatta played Penrith, they did the exact opposite of that. So Parramatta came and they looked like they were walking on eggshells in that game. And that's one thing that Samoa did right. And I think every other tier 2 nation has to adopt that attitude where they come in and they say, look, we've got no respect for our opposition. We're going to come out. We're going to play our style of play. We're going to take risks. We're going to give ourselves a puncher's chance. And like boxing term where you take some swings and maybe you knock someone out, but you probably get knocked out for yourself and you give yourself a shot. And Samoa did that against England and they got the win. They did it against Tonga. They got the win. And they did it against Australia. It didn't work out. Australia's really good. But they're going to come back with the same attitude next tournament. I think the other tier 2 nations have to do the same thing.
Yeah, punching out of your weight class is always hard to do. Then Samoa gave it a red-hot crack, and I fully respect them for that. They were so brave in this tournament. And to come back, especially from that first game, and I know we talked about it at length in other videos, but to get slapped by England and come out and beat them in the semi-final as well, is such a really important revenge game for them. To then do that and go on and show a great account of themselves in the grand final, they've got plenty of stuff to keep their heads held high, and can only respect them for that. Yep.
Anyway, that winds down our Rugby League World Cup coverage. So we're going to be switching across to NRL, Supercoach, Fantasy, sort of more general stuff around Australian Rugby League in particular, but also looking at some of the Pacific content too. Next video is going to be our top 10 scariest players in the NRL. So check out that one and we'll see you soon.